Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mining Now. I'm your host, Jared Downey. Not joining me today, it's going to be a pre-recorded. Gowdy is going to read out the sponsors because we have a special setup today because we have two guests. They're both from Rail-Veyor Technologies Global, they have a very interesting technology. I'm not even going to get into what it is at all because I love the way the founder describes it. So we're going to have James Fisk. He's the founder and executive chairman at Rail-Veyor. And then we're going to have Lisa Youngblood. She is the executive director of marketing and communications. So before we jump into it, we're going to switch it over to Gowdy to read out our sponsors.
Okay, so today we have Savona Equipment. Savona Equipment supplies new and used mining equipment around the world, from placer to underground to ore processing plants. They have gold concentrating tables, trommels, and mineral jigs in stock now to take advantage of the high gold prices. You can visit them at savonaequipment.com, where you will find more equipment every day. And of course, tell your company's story to thousands of mining professionals using our platform. Please contact us, info@crownsmen.com, to be part of Mining Now. And please don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. And next, we also are sponsored by PowerZone. When you need a specialized team of world-class engineers for your oil and gas, pipelines, dewatering, or any fluid handling needs, you want to visit powerzone.com. In addition to their inventory of rebuilt pumps, motors, engines, they also have an amazing team to design and engineer your systems, no matter the challenge, no matter the location. Get in the zone with PowerZone. Visit them at powerzone.com. And last but not least, of course, please mark your calendars. CIM 2021 Convention and Expo is coming to you this May. And as a virtual event, it has never been easier to attend. Get insight from industry leaders like Anglo American's Mark Cutifani, Caterpillar's Denise Johnson, or Torex Gold's Jody Kuzenko, and many, many more. Explore mining operations through virtual site tours, find the solutions and the expertise you need with technical talks, Q&A sessions, and of course, the CIM Expo, Canada's mining marketplace. So don't forget, visit CIM.org to register today. This is May 3rd to 6th.
Okay. Welcome back, everyone. Hello, Lisa. Hello, Jim. How are you?
Good.
Great, thanks.
So you're, are you both based out of Chicago or just you, Jim?
Just me.
Oh, okay. You were talking off air. You got a bit of a dump of snow last night.
Yeah, we got lots of snow. We got a foot of snow on the ground. So
yeah, I didn't realize Chicago got that kind of weather. I mean, I know it got some, but I didn't realize it was quite so intense.
When the wind comes off the lake, it snows in Chicago a lot.
Are you and then where's the company headquartered?
Sudbury, Ontario.
Oh, okay. But then you're distributing throughout the globe, is that right?
Yep, global distribution. We service customers on every continent.
Okay, so I want to jump in right into the technology. And we'll start with you, Jim, and then jump over to you, Lisa. For I know there's a lot of ESG topics that we want to cover today, but we're going to start with the product itself. So Jim, can you please describe it and walk us through what we're actually talking about when we talk about Rail-Veyor?
Well, Rail-Veyor is a bulk material handling system, primarily focused at mining companies, but can handle any bulk material. And the layman's description for Rail-Veyor is if you took a Hot Wheels that your son had, a roller coaster, a train, and a computer, and put them all in a bag and shook it up real good and dumped it out, you'd have Rail-Veyor. That's the basis of the technology we use and where each of the parts came from.
Can we dive into that? I know we've got a video that we're going to show here while we're talking, and let's start with the Hot Wheels. Is it doing that where it goes into the little thing that catapults it forward?
Yeah, what the Hot Wheels calls a power booster, we call a drive station.
Okay.
Drive station has 2 tires on it facing each other, and the car that carries the material fits between the 2 tires, and the 2 tires both propel and brake the system. So their power booster is our drive station.
And then what about the roller coaster side of it? That's what really caught my attention.
Yeah, well, the roller coaster side is once the train's filled, and the train is like a very, very, very long bathtub full of material and like a snake. So once it's filled, then it goes down the track, and the track is a little tiny rail. And then it goes over what we call a discharge loop, which elevates in the air. The entire train tips upside down and the material falls out. And then the train reinverts back right side up and goes back to the origination and starts over again. So we early on decided that we could depend on gravity for our discharge mechanism, and so far gravity hasn't let us down too many times.
So essentially, you have that power booster unit that gets it forward, but actually for discharge, you're relying on the gravity system.
The gravity for the material to come out of the car, gravity is what we use.
And then it's also computerized, and so is this entire system, is it run completely off computer?
Absolutely. Matter of fact, the only way you can operate the system is computer. We designed it autonomously from the beginning, not as an afterthought, because when the original design was done many, many years ago, way back in the 1960s, they had no way to control it, so it was considered a failure. But with modern computers, we now can control every bit of it, and so it's automatically operated, every aspect of it.
How far back does the design go?
The original design was back in the 60s and done in France. And quite frankly, they considered it a failure because they did have the same type drive station, but they propelled the vehicles but had no way to control them.
Mm.
And with no way to control them, they kept wrecking equipment and having problems. So they abandoned it. And that's where the very, very beginning of this thing comes from.
And then at what point did you get involved and sort of see there was an opportunity to make this thing commercial ready?
There was a gentleman that took it to the Florida Phosphate Institute in 2002 or 4, something like that. And they did a real small demonstration plant. I first got involved with it in 2010. And we took it was nothing more than a laboratory project and turned it into a commercial project so that we could actually produce the vehicles, produce the drive station, do everything repeatedly, and do it in a commercial environment at a price that customers could afford to do.
How was it received when that first one, that first customer, or that for those first 3 customers, was that quite a thing to try to get it over the line, to actually get them to invest?
That first customer to buy in and do is the most difficult job in the world.
Mm.
And we've done that. Now we've got a whole lot of first customers now, thank goodness. But everyone considers themselves the first customer because it's the first one they got. And you go through the same learning curve and the same support that you can do that anybody should do for good customer service with each one of them. But yeah, it took a lot of convincing that something, quote unquote, this simple could work, because it looks very, very, very simple. It doesn't look complicated at all. The magic is in the computer running things.
Well, I mean, for a layman like myself, it does look very complicated. As soon as I saw it, our executive producer Rory sent this over to me that when we were talking about Rail-Veyor coming on, and I was like, okay, wow, I didn't even know it existed, to be honest, and it's pretty amazing. I want to talk about something that came out, and I really do want to jump over to the ESG side, but I think it's important because it's something I didn't quite understand. Is where does Rail-Veyor come into the system? Because it would seem it wouldn't, if something is in full operation already, it would seem difficult to integrate it in. So where do you need to come in to be able to become compatible with a production?
Well, the ironic part is it's a wonderful idea if you bring it in greenfield, okay? Because you could design the mine around the haulage system and use it to your best advantage and keep your costs as low as possible. And so we have the ability to go around really tight corners, some as tight as 18 meters curves.
Wow.
And as well as significant elevation changes. We can do 30 meter or 30%, 30% elevation without it being a problem. So you can take advantage of that. That being said, our current customer base, all but one are brownfield sites.
Oh,
So the reason they selected us is because we could fit within their mine already. They didn't have to do a lot of new development. They didn't have to create a lot of new drifts, or at least if they did, the half the drifts were already existing in underground. And because we could fit in them, they chose it. And what they really, the real prize for them was the fact that we don't require any ventilation. We don't put out fumes. We don't have a fire hazard. We don't any of that. And so instantly they had a haulage system without the burdens of ventilation, so they didn't have to worry about using the precious CFM of air for hauling stuff. They could instead use that for mining.
that's a it's a good. I'm going to ask one more question because that's a good
Yeah.
time to pivot over to the ESG side. Is that one of the main drivers? Lisa, actually, let's jump over to you for a moment
Mhm.
because let's talk about the ESG side. It's clean, it's safe, and that's I would say that's a theme on 90% of our shows now. So can you talk about that side of the Rail-Veyor system?
Absolutely. You hear all the time in the news, CEOs of various companies want to make sure that their supply chain is clean and safe, that they're doing what they can to be a green company all the way down. And so we're perfectly positioned to help out with that. Being originally electric, it isn't something that we switched over and became electric. No batteries, so no problems with battery storage or recharging. It is electric, so depending on where the company gets their electricity from, if it's hydro or wind, then we're very clean. Um, so that we've seen that become very popular, and we're getting, I think, a lot more requests for quotations because companies realize that kind of the social contract and the sustainability means that they need to be taking care of the environment, the workers, the community that they're working in, all those aspects.
It's Is that and I don't want to go into, something that's it's almost too technical to kind of unpack, but it must when especially if you're at that greenfield and brownfield level, it must provide a huge opportunity for because there's all these different governance all over the place from
Mhm.
province to country
Hmm.
and even at the local level.
Right.
So it must really do a lot to eliminate at least one of the hurdles that the companies have when trying to get into operation.
It definitely does, and it helps support their program, their environmental program, their community programs. Uh, there's a couple operations where we've actually done the engineering. They haven't purchased systems yet, where they literally plan on transporting product by us because of just that. Currently, in both cases, they're hauling material on the surface
Mhm.
with trucks and all kinds of noises. And there's one customer where we already have implemented a system where they did haul on surface. And Lisa will give you numbers. I think it's 200 truck trips a day or something like that, some crazy number. Uh,
200 one-way haul truck trips each day are eliminated because of RailVeyor.
Wow.
yeah, that they were doing. They were doing in a national forest in the United States of all things. But yeah, so it's a different approach.
What about Lisa? I'll jump back over to you. What about the safety aspect? Again, I mean, I'm approaching it from very layman's terms. So, but I know there's an element. So, can you unpack a little bit about that side of the system?
Yeah, absolutely. As you know, mining has gotten a lot safer than it was historically, but there's still an awful lot of fatalities. And the most amount of fatalities come with machine human interaction. So, with RailVeyor being a very low profile, and you know exactly where it is, it's going to be on the rails. There isn't any accidental running into something. Again, it's very low profile. There's nothing to catch on fire, and so, and because it's a clean electric solution, it's not going to add to a fire risk by having, combustible fumes and those kinds of things. So it's incredibly safe that way. A couple other things people don't think about with safety is the noise factor.
Mm,
We're a very, very quiet system. We are looking at that a little bit more because we've had some surface um, applications quoted in Australia where they're going near a community. And so they have decibel ratings that we have to be below. And Jim laughs because we were standing right next to the system and we're way below what they required for what was it, like a kilometer away.
Yeah, they
We're
wanted a
just
decimal reading 1,000 meters away, and we couldn't actually get that far away from it. But within 3 meters, we were lower than what their requirement was at
Oh,
1,000 meters. So
wow. I hope those communities are talking about mining right now, mining operations there that are watching this video.
Yeah.
You're gonna
Yeah.
get those
So
calls.
no, yeah. And so no, obviously the big one is the diesel emissions. We don't have that. As Jim said, like when it was going through the national forest, just eliminating those 200 trips a day was it cleaned up the air that much more because you just don't have the diesel trucks on the roads.
Right. Right. And just the environment of
Hmm.
not like the environment that you're in as well. It cleans that up too. Just
Right.
having a national forest without the trucks on the road. Of course, now that the transportation people are going to be after me.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you cover everybody on a show. You sometimes there's sort of healthy competition, we'll say. Um,
Right.
so the and I was wondering, I'm going to stick with you with for a second, Lisa, because I'm really
Mhm.
curious. I've been in sort of those marketing communication roles, and I'm curious when you're going out. Of course, that's limited now in today's world, but hopefully it will come back soon. But when you're trying to put out that communication, how important is that ESG side or ESG side? I don't mean it
Mhm.
just from sort of from a top level, sort of what they write on the wall type thing. But I mean those private conversations where you're trying to communicate the value of the product. How much focus are they putting on that when they're in communication with you?
I think, to be honest, it is the level that you're talking to. So when you're talking to C-suite, it's very important to them, and anybody that has to go after any kind of permitting, it's very important to them. Maybe not as much to the operator that wants to make sure he still gets his tonnage,
Mm,
um, but I think it's becoming more and more. And as the message comes down from the C-suite to the operators, to the miners, I think it's going to be more and more. Sometimes we are approached because they have heard that our profitability or how our reliability is very high. And then when we bring up these other points on the clean air, no diesel emissions, the safety factors, we actually get the operators that, kind of sit back and are surprised and like, oh, that's great. I've got another tool, to sell this upline. Not only is it profitable, but it's also clean and safe. So I think that's what we've found. And really, in this uh, interesting time that we're in, I've actually had more opportunities to give presentations because I don't have to worry about getting on a plane or, I mean, I can do this interview with you in now, and I can do an interview with, somebody in Chicago in an hour. So,
right.
that part of this time is really great. We're really excited. We're going to be having a presentation during SME coming up in a couple of weeks here. We've got 5 presentations for CIM that are coming up. So people are interested in the technology and they want to hear more about it. And I'm really wanting to educate people because I think that's our biggest problem right now in market acceptance is that people just don't know about us. So they know how to handle a yellow truck, and they know if something goes wrong with the yellow truck, they know how to fix it. So I think that's where our quote unquote risk comes from is they just don't know. So that the more we can educate people about RailVeyor and its benefits, the better we are. So thank you for this.
No, it's great to have on. It's a nice. It's like I almost am getting paid to be educated. It's a wonderful gig that I have. Um, the And you mentioned CIM coming up, and that I'm very excited because that team has been working. You know, I know a lot of the folks there, and I mean they are just. I mean, I see it in their emails that they get sent back to me. I can tell they're just running flat out trying to make this a great event, and I'm excited to see companies like yourself participating and supporting it because, of course, that gets other people excited to be part of it.
Mhm.
So thank you for
Absolutely.
that. The I wanted Jim, something I was wondering about. I touched on, competition about truck. Who is the competition when you're coming in at the greenfield or the brownfield level? Or is it the conveyor systems? Is it the trucks? Is it both? Where do you sort of end up landing? What are you essentially trying to replace on site?
Well, we're trying to replace any haulage. But if you look at where we do best is if you have a high tonnage, long distance situation. Okay. So you could argue overland conveyors is a competition. You could argue that the haul trucks are competition. You could argue that the truck trains they use in Australia are competition. But at the end of the day, it's us providing haulage. Our theory is that once they put the material in our train, we want them to do that as soon as possible, as close to the face as possible. And if we do this right, we should discharge at their process plant and nowhere in between.
Right.
Rehandling material just costs the customer money and problems. Okay. Be it transfer points or be it trucks that dump and then the next guy picks it up and puts it on the belt. All that just is added waste and added cost to the end customer. So the goal is to get it loaded early, take it all the way in, and we're doing that right now. We're in the beginning of installing a system in Kazakhstan. Okay, and there we're taking ore directly from their ore chutes down below and taking it all the way up, and it'll wind up at their process plant.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the Kazakhstan project because I wanted to talk. We always sort of talk about past projects on the show, but I think for this show, is there any projects you're currently involved in that sort of have an outlook that you're sort of integrated into the system? Is there anything that stands out that we could take a look at?
Yeah, one of them that we're integrated into was done by Deloitte, a study they did for several mining companies, which was called the Mine of the Future. And it's an open pit mine where they use small trucks to take the material from the shovels to a central loading point within the bottom of the pit. We haul it out of the pit up to higher grade with much less energy use than what the trucks would normally do to the in process plant, and we discharge into it. And for that application, we have a train that'll handle lump size up to 1 meter. So there's no in pit crushing. We take it all the way uncrushed to the end destination.
Wow. One thing another thing I was wondering is, when you're coming in on the ground level like that, are you Are you designing it, or like I'm trying to picture them like let's say if you got a typical engineer, they've got conveyors, they've got trucks, they've got their crushing and processing and so on and so forth. They develop that and now you're coming in with a system that is not you've got a lot of units out in the market, but it's not every second mine has this.
Correct.
So how are you actually have an engineering team that comes in and designs it based on something that they're trying to accomplish? I'm just trying to get a picture of what that would look like.
We have an engineering team that's on staff for us.
Mm,
And so what they do for with a customer is they'll work with the customer for the customer's mine and understand what's important for that customer. Is it tons per hour? Is it I have multiple grades of ore and I want to put a priority on them? Is it low maintenance costs? Whatever drives their business, what's important to them, and then we design the application of our equipment to meet that customer's expectation. And some want a lower operating cost. They're not as concerned about capital. Some want a low capex cost. They're not as worried about it operating. But we do multiple trade-offs in each case to get them the design that fits their mine. All of the parts are standardized. So every mine has a different length train,
mm.
different number of cars in the train. Every mine will wind up with drive stations either farther apart or closer together, depending upon their elevation changes. But all that work is done by our engineers and
I
then handed to the customer.
I would love to be on a fly on a wall on that in that discussion, because I'm just picturing that you're in there talking about something that is still probably fairly new, or has a
Yeah.
lot of research been done. By the time you're at that point, do they have a pretty good understanding of the system?
Typically, with our customer wants, we make contact with a customer and they want to, first thing everybody wants is a scoping level number. Or we'll do what was called a budgetary proposal. We'll ask the customer to fill out a one-page questionnaire, some basic data, what's the route, what's the elevation, what's the SG of the material type stuff, how many tons an hour do you want? Once we have that, given a couple of days, we can turn that around and give them a number that's within plus or minus 25% of both CapEx and OpEx. Now, if they decide they want to go further, then we do what's called an engineering EDSA, engineering design study arrangement. Anyway, that's when we'll get into the level of detail I'm talking about. They will have to have their engineers or their consultants to feed us real topography, real drawings, and it's designed to fit that mine and only that mine at that point. It's the optimal. How do we get the optimal solution for that end customer?
It really is amazing stuff. I've never had a chance to actually like work with a company like yourself. So I just find it so, just that part of it, bringing a new product on the market, then bringing, commercializing it being successful, being across the world, with it. It's just really amazing. And Lisa, I want to sort of do a little bit of a pivot here as we wrap up the interview, and talk a little bit about what you touched on earlier, was that in some ways the communication is easier. And a lot of people watching this show, they might have a new product. We have people across all sectors, including energy and transportation, and of course mining is the big one, especially on mining now. But what has been how have you sort of pivoted to be able to communicate at a high level still with all these, all these restrictions on travel and things like that? Has it been better? Have you been more efficient? Or has it been harder to develop those, because this is a very in-depth product. You're not just buying, just something off the shelf. Is it harder to build that really deep relationship so that you can really get it down the court, to get people involved in buying the product?
Well, I'll start with what is harder right now because of restrictions in traveling and mines obviously wanting to control any issues that they may have with this time. There's not any visitation allowed, so those in mine tours were extremely helpful for us, for people to really walk alongside the system, see it working, see how it goes and stops and discharges. That was incredible. So that part has been harder. However, again, I can have a meeting with Mexico, Venezuela, Kazakhstan, Australia, all within a day. And
Yeah,
so
we have.
and we have had those before. So that is really good. Obviously with video conferencing, and everybody's in the same boat. It's not like Jim's not allowing me to travel. No one is traveling right now. So
Right.
everyone has gotten comfortable with the video conferencing, being able to upload videos to a shared drive so that they can see the videos. I'm even working on a virtual tour. Sorry, I'm losing my thing. We're out even working on a virtual tour of one of our mines. It's not the same as walking alongside it, but hopefully the second best thing to, again, kind of helping people wrap their heads around, how does this actually work? How is this the best of conveyors and the best of truck haulage and the best of the electric vehicles, showing them all those parts. And people, and actually on the other side of this, because no one's traveling, those mine executives that might have been on the road are also at home. So it's in a sense easier to get a hold of them because they're not on a mine site.
Right. Yeah.
They're not traveling to a mine site. So in that sense, it's been, I think I've been involved with Rail-Veyor for almost 2 years now. I think now, and obviously our profile is raised. So I think it's easier to get a meeting with mine executives. turn around, get them the information that they want. And we've even done these engineering studies by video conferencing, and we're doing commissioning on one of our systems by video conferencing. So
Wow.
the technology now, honestly, if this happened 5 years ago, I'm not sure how it would have been. But the
Yeah.
technology is at a place now that it's pretty global. Anybody around the world, we have. I can't even think of one that we've had a difficulty in meeting with.
Right. Yeah, no, that's very, very well said. With that said, it will be very nice when you can just meet up with a few friends for dinner.
It
Yes.
will be. It will be. I agree.
Um, Jim, there is something that as an entrepreneur, I really, this is where this question is coming from. There are You have a product that is different from anything else. It has a direct value proposition, and I have to wonder, when you got involved, when you're the founder of the company, and what drove the decision to get involved? It is a big. It is. This is, like I said. You're not talking widgets. You're
Yep.
talking a major piece of a mining operation that's integrated into a very set system. It's a big thing that you did. So, what made you start that?
Well, I went to Sudbury, and they had the experimental train operating. And I got picked up at the airport, and the lad that was going to show me this thing pulled into their demonstration site. And I watched this train snaking up this hill. So I'm an engineer. Okay. And so I asked him very casually what the train weighed and how big were the motors that drove it. And I'm watching it go up the grade. And I started doing some calculations. And quite frankly, I got all done, and he was talking to me about God knows what. But I had a calculator, so I was busy. And I got done the first time and thought, I screwed it up. It'd been too long since I went to school. So I got rid of that one, did the numbers again, got the same number. That, oh man, it's really bad. I'm really losing it. And got rid of that one. The third time I got the same number and went, oh my God, I had spent 44 years of my life in heavy rail. And quite frankly, telling the world in heavy rail how it was so much more efficient than trucks, and it is, okay, that thought this was, by God, the most efficient form of transport. Rail-Veyor compared to heavy rail, we make heavy rail look like the dumbest decision ever made. From an energy use perspective, it's the lowest energy use for moving material I've ever seen anywhere in the world, and I've done the calculations. It's we run about 75 to 80% of what a conveyor uses. Okay. And compared to a truck, we're at about 4% of the energy a truck uses.
Wow.
Yeah, it's significant. It's very significant. And it's all because it's designed around efficiency, and literally what it's designed around. So yeah, but it came from me actually thinking I was doing the calculations wrong.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's interesting. I do, and I've brought up different versions of this on the show quite often. I sometimes I see some of these motivational videos about people, just start something and believe in yourself, which is all true. There is a lot of truth to that. But yourself as an engineer, you had that background to have that competency to know the value of the product that you were about to invest. I mean, essentially your whole life into it. It takes a ton of work.
Yep.
Just imagine what those first few were like. I mean, it was hard for us to get people on the show at first. And I mean, it didn't affect them at all. And what you're doing is, I mean, it's right into the core of what they're doing.
Well, at the end of the day, there isn't a mining company out there I've ever talked to yet that doesn't want to do it better environmentally. They all want to do better safety no matter what. And they all have to do better financially. I mean, real world examples, not theoretical examples. We have one customer that they reduced their operating costs for hauling their material by 92+%. So if you take the cost of haulage, which according to Deloitte is 70% of the cost of mining,
Wow.
okay, and you reduce that by 90%. Let's say we're even wrong. So you reduce it by 60%. So that should mean, if I math right, your overall cost just went down by 40% for your entire company.
Wow.
What's that look like? What's that look like? How much more reward is that for the shareholders, for the community, for everybody involved?
Mm-hmm.
And it right now just goes up and, either burnt up in fuel, tires, labor, all that stuff,
Yeah.
changes the game.
Yeah, and you could say, well, there's electric options that are coming on as well, but those, I mean, you're still, that just takes more mining, more minerals, everything that to take.
Well, there absolutely are, and some of them are splendid, to be honest about it.
Oh, they are, yeah.
The BEVs that are coming on are fantastic, but where is their useful space? Right now the battery technology lasts about 4 hours in a typical mine, which is fantastic. Okay, and I drive a Tesla. Okay, so I'm a big fan. But what really needs to be done is the most efficient use of them is where it's flat. So use them on the bottom pit and bring it to a loading area, and then let us do the heavy lifting from there. And that it's a combination of all of them that matter. Okay, at the end of the day, so you truly can have as crazy as it sounds, you truly can have a totally green mine. We can have a mine with zero emissions. I know we can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it's not going to be any one technology that's going to take it over the top. It's how do you link them together? Let us do what we do best. Let the other guy do what he does best. And then let's put it all together in one big package, and away we go. That Deloitte mine of the future, all kidding aside, there's going to be twists and turns on it, but that is where the industry has to go. Mm-hmm. If they want to be here long-term sustainable, if they want to get the permits, if they want to be welcome to the communities, that's what we got to do.
Well, I certainly can't say it any better myself, and I certainly can't think of a better way to end the interview. So thank you, Jim, for coming on the show. Thank you, Lisa. I'm excited. I really am happy that, because in a couple months, and I'll be hosting some of the plenary for CIM, and I'm glad to be able to be a part of that. So it's exciting to have people on the show that are going to be speaking, and it's sort of supporting the community with good products that really are building the future of mining. So thank you both for coming on the show, and I certainly hope we stay in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, everyone. Thank you. If you're not interested in that episode, I don't think you are interested in mining, quite frankly. Amazing stuff. Thank you so much. Again, Gowdy is filming separately, so I can't refer to her. So I'm going to have to do the sell off of. Make sure to follow us, like us, share, comment, suggest guests. We've got a lot of people that are now bringing in guests for us, which is just, we can't talk to, we can only talk to so many people. So when you refer guests to us, it just expands the topics. It makes it better for the viewers. We get to collaborate and promote the industry. So thank you for doing that. Please continue it. There'll be links to Rail-Veyor everywhere. We'll be tagging them on LinkedIn. There'll be plenty of places to find them. Thank you for watching, everybody. We'll see you on and make sure to register for CIM on May 3rd to 4th. Thank you, everybody. We will see you on the next episode of Mining Now.